everyone, and welcome to the Jeff Muller Show. Today I have with me Axel Thibon. Now, Axel is an entrepreneur, has been working in banking for over 6 years, and through experience understood that a great amount of people were scared shitless because they didn't understand it. Okay, that's not the official introduction he told me to do, but that's really what people feel like, don't you? Like, we're afraid. Okay. And people think that investing is complicated and intimidating. And the tagline for his company, Wisest, is basically democratizing the stock market. And that's really a great term. He decided to create Wisest, a platform to make investing accessible, transparent, engaging, and easier. And Wisest is a platform that opens access to a community of vetted financial experts and provides investing tools, learning materials, and social investing opportunities for anyone who wants to start investing. Users will be able to follow experts like influencers and build their own dream team to invest on their behalf, making investment easy and approachable. And the other thing that's exciting and very, very modern is that it's a platform that anyone use using an app or a website. So welcome to the show, Axel. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thank you for hosting me. Hello, everyone.
So, Axel, your accent is not American. It's not Australian.
You're right. You're right.
We've had a discussion about this, and I've already worked out where you've come from, and it's from one of the corners of a beautiful country called France.
Exactly.
So what made you leave France to go to the Great Lakes and be in Cleveland on the edge of Lake Erie? What made you get up and go from your beautiful country of France?
That's a good question. I also ask myself the same question every day. So no, more seriously, like it's like an evolving career and life, I would say, that brought me to where I am now. But yes, like I studied in France, like being like a mechanical and industrial engineer, working in the automotive sector. So nothing to do with finance and with what we are going to speak about today. But after a while, like I came to the US to do my master's, my MBA, and so I came to do that in Boston at MIT. And after that, it's when I switched to the finance industry and start working in a few banks, being the head of strategy for them, and even like at the end of my journey there to build from scratch a little digital bank on behalf of a larger institution. And through that journey, it's when I realized that now I think I have the tools and the confidence to be able to solve one of the issues I had when I was like a mechanical engineer, which was how to invest money in the stock market and how to build wealth, think about retirement and future. And so that's like what I'm doing now with Wisest. So that's to have like a little story of like the progress and where I came from and where I am now.
So you mentioned that investing can be intimidating. And you go into a website and you sometimes got, tools that are like in a black box, and that's very impersonal. On the other hand, you've got a website that's got lots of graphs and figures, and everyone goes, I got to get out of here because I'm overwhelmed. So you've created Wisest out of a personal frustration and desperation, haven't you?
Yes, exactly. No, and as I just mentioned before, like being a mechanical engineer, I had no training in finance and training and in investing, and so when I started working at the beginning of my career, I said, hey, you know what? I need to start thinking about my future and my long-term future, and let's start to invest a little bit of the money that I'm earning. But I went to the tools that were available, like the trading tools, like free and affordable, and I didn't know what to do. Like I don't know what to buy, I don't know what to sell. I don't have the time to do like a lot of research because I have a job during the day, and so that was not for me. And so I went back to my bank and say, hey, can I have some help and someone to help me to build a portfolio? And they told me like, yeah, no problem, sir, but like, do you already have like $100,000 to be able to qualify to get an advisor? Not yet. Okay, so come back in 5 years when we'll have the money. Okay, so not a solution either. And so the last like thing I tried was like the new tools that were like in the market at the time, the robo advising tools, where it's all managed through algorithm to produce a portfolio that should be matching your profile as an investor. But then, like as an engineer, I am curious by nature, and I want to understand what is happening. And in a robo advising platform, it's a black box. There is like an algorithm that you cannot know how it works. And so like the question is like, how do I trust these? How do I know how the algorithm is going to react if there is a trouble in the market? How I know if the algorithm is working in the best interest of the company or for me? So I don't know. So that's something that a lot of people have difficulties to handle and trust. And so that's why I decided like, you know what, there is no solution for me in the market. And I had this thought in mind like for a few years. And after working in banking, like I decided to try to address it and say like, hey, let's see if I can find a solution. And after like doing like going through an ideation phase for like a couple of years with colleagues and other people around me, Wisest was the idea of Wisest came, and here we are now trying to push it to the public and make sure that anyone can enjoy it.
Yeah. It's fascinating that you mentioned algorithms, and I just want to digress a little bit into algorithms, and then we'll get into talking more about Wisest and how it works, and how you make it accessible and democratize investing for the average person, which is, I think, fantastic. And for me, there's a lot of platforms that emerged over the years that social media initially offered the ability to democratize marketing. In other words, you could use the platform, but now the algorithms of social media are now dictating what we see, who we connect with. So I'd be fascinated a little bit to digress into a discussion about algorithms and what you've discovered with what you've done with Wisest, and also what you've learned along the way in looking at other platforms. Do you think the algorithms in the investment industry, online investing platforms, are working? And you just said, I don't know whether they're working for me or against me. I'd be interested in your thoughts on that.
Yes, so algorithm, my view, and again, like having studied finance at MIT, I would say like I should love algorithm. But like the thing that I see with algorithm, that they work, they work perfectly. The only issue with that is like money is an emotional topic for everyone. Anyway.
It is emotional, yep.
And so like when we speak about money or deal with about money, like we want to have like always, I would say, a validation, a confirmation, and also having a human contact to be able to validate everything that is happening. And so that's something that we cannot have with an algorithm. Algorithm is working, perfectly working, but there is like, we miss this like a human aspect and this human layer that people are looking for when they are dealing with money. So I think that like that's why I went this contrarian way of like trying to reintroduce human into the industry instead of like removing it, because I think that like this is where people can relate, they can build a relationship, they can learn, they can trust, and so that makes the experience much more enjoyable than like just working with a machine.
Yeah, because algorithms can work for you, they can work against you. Algorithms just follow rules.
Exactly, they follow rules. There is no intuition. It's very mechanical and methodical.
And they can be set up to benefit one party over another party. And that's where it gets like, okay, so Facebook, for example, you maximizing your revenue, or you maximizing my ability to have meaningful conversations globally with my tribe. And I can tell you right now what that answer is. And it's not about connecting and letting you build a network. It's about them selling you more advertising. That's really what it's about. So, so we could go down the algorithm trail for a long time. I've just been experimenting with content creation on ChatGPT, for example. And ChatGPT started in 2015 on the basis of being a non-profit organization to develop artificial intelligence that benefits humanity. So what you're doing is you're trying to create a investment platform that benefits humanity and is human as possible.
Yes, it's like you phrase it in a way that is seems quite ambitious, but yes, that the idea is to demystify, I would say, the access to finance, because I think that a lot of people do not have access to it today, or don't think they can access to it, and so it's about demystifying the access to investing, and making it very approachable and transparent, and also with this like human layer that everybody can relate to.
Cool. So the democratization comes on many levels. Number one is it's available to anyone who has a smartphone or a computer. I did some research today. Apparently there's nearly 6.9 billion smartphones. In other words, every one of those can get an app. There's about 2.1 billion computers, and there's about 5.3 billion people on the internet. So by being online, you guys are providing access to everyone from India to China to Africa, South Africa, Australia. And this is what's really, I've been excited by the internet ever since I discovered it in about 1994, when I downloaded Netscape for the first time and discovered that I can now access the world's intelligence instead of having to go to a library to borrow a book for a week in real time. You're providing intelligence about, and humanity as well, about investing. And this is why I've been excited about the internet ever since I discovered it in 1994, even when it was so slow that I had to make a cup of tea, a cup of coffee while I waited for a web page to download. So I may be revealing my age a little bit here, but so now I digressed, I've raved, I've ranted. So Axel, tell me how the platform works. Take me through the experience when someone logs on. Take us through that.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think that's going to be the best way to illustrate everything that we've said so far. So yes, in terms of how it works, first there is obviously an onboarding phase, because we need to know a little bit better who is a user, and through the onboarding part, there is obviously all the legalese, things that everybody has to do. But what is more interesting is there is a short questionnaire. It's 4 questions, so it's very easy to try to help the user to find what is his or her, I would say, investing profile from a risk tolerance perspective.
Yeah.
And so,
for example, I'm not young. I need to take less risk than someone who is 30.
Exactly. So through the questions, we will assess the long-term risk tolerance, the short-term risk tolerance. So that would take into account the age, for example, that as you just mentioned, and in terms of how you react in function as a person, or in function of what is happening in the market. So if there is a big jump in the market, what you would do. If there is a dip in the market, what you would do. So we can assess also how you function as a person, and then from there you will get a score, which is your risk tolerance score.
Risk score, yeah, cool.
And you will enter into the platform, and then in the platform, instead of seeing products like the mutual fund ABC or the ETF XYZ, which is totally abstract for a novice investor, you will see people, and everybody is used now with Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn to see profile of people and analyze people this way. And so you will see profile of these financial experts that are working with us, and they have their personal profile, so where they live, where they studied, what is their main approach about investing, and then one or several portfolios that they are sharing. Here is a more conservative portfolio, or here is a portfolio with just this type of industries, and there is a lot of diversity there. And so you see this profile, and this profile I presented to you and ranked in function of the best match with your risk score that you determined before. So this way you can see these people and say, okay, I like Jeffrey, I like Catherine, and I like John. And and I have like, let's say, I don't know, $6,000, and what I'm going to do is like I'm going to put like $2,000 on Jeffrey, on John, and on Catherine. And what Wisest is going to do, Wisest is going to replicate their portfolio on your behalf, so you don't have to go through the hassle of like building the portfolio by yourself and doing any research. And then the way you will manage your portfolio, again, is not by managing the products that are in the portfolio, but by managing your team. So you have like you have almost like a team of experts that is working for you, and your portfolio is like Jeffrey, Catherine, and John. And if like John is like not satisfying you, you can say, okay, I'm going to reallocate my money from John to the other two, or I'm going to find a replacement for John in the list of experts that are in the platform to change that. And so that's like this very, very easy way for people to approach investing, which is like through people and managing a team of people that are working for you, quote unquote. And then the last aspect that is great in the platform is like, as you are following these experts and you are investing your money following their models of investment, they are also every week posting and explaining things in the platform. So they are saying like, hey, this week this market changed this way because of this and this reason, or like I am explaining to you guys like this week like what is an option or terms about finance, or like this week I changed this in my portfolio and this is the reason why. And so you, as a user and a follower of John, Catherine, and Jeffrey, you will receive from them all this like content and all this learning. So this way you will not only like be able to access investing, but be able to learn about investing and how it works. So I think that there is two components that for me are very important, which is like the access, but also the educational part. And so that's what Wisest is providing.
Okay. So one question I have is, how do you choose your vetted financial experts?
Yes, so great question. So we chose these people, like, and we vet them one by one. So we make sure that they have their credentials as like a financial advisors or portfolio managers in their real life. I would say in their main activity, so they have the right credentials. And then we do also like all the checks and in terms of background and resume and what they did in the past, to make sure that we have the right person on the platform. And to give you some examples, like we have like with us like people that have been like leading like the I would say the investment office for a small bank, another one that is the head of private banking in another institution. So people that have been like doing like 10, 15, 20 years of experience in the industry, and that have a track record. And so far we have like 7 experts that are offering 25 different portfolios or strategies of investing, which gives like already like a very large choice to our users.
Okay, so one of the things that I've come across is that there's a lot of experts in the market, and there's a lot of people saying we can make more money by continually trading and changing what we do. Some of the research that I've come across says that just doing index funding quite often outperforms many of the experts that have got billions of dollars, lots of people with spreadsheets, and so on. So in terms of performance, how do your vetted experts compare to indexed investing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and if we take like, I would say that the value of the experts is not going to be for us, and we are not looking for that. It's not going to be the performance or the additional performance. Right. For us, it's more about because we saw like in the testing we've done so far in the last year that the performance is like I would say in line with the market or a little bit better, but like it's what we can expect. It's not like we didn't find like the wizard that is like much better than the market. No, that's we don't have that. But
they're making 50% when everyone else is only making 5-10% or something, right? Okay.
Exactly. So that's not like the, I would say
you haven't found that wizard quite yet.
Exactly, and I think that is like a little bit like a impossible to find. But in any case, like the value that we have in these experts, more than the performance, is about like to be able to be there with the user and to basically to have like this investing like with them. And
so it's
why
almost
this
like
is
it's almost like offering comfort. Is that correct?
comfort. And but for just an example, like when you are like an investor that is like doing that like on your alone on your side, and you see the market dropping 20%, most people would overreact and be afraid and
Sell everything.
sell everything, losing, and then they will buy again when the market will be high again. So they
yeah, they just realize their losses, which is actually stop right there.
Exactly. And so the benefit of working with like these experts is to avoid this overreaction and this emotional reaction and say, hey, don't worry, this is normal. Historically, the market is working this way. So it's to basically to be here with the user to help them through the process to navigate this like interesting market.
Okay, cool. So you've done the beta, you've done the minimal viable product. You've found it works. The experts are great. The platform works. It's robust, and you're about to launch into the market. So, how can people find you, Axel, in terms of Wisest? Where can you get access to the app and also to the website, for example, and start using Wisest? Because I think that's the best thing to do. Is like for me, what I love is democratization and comfort. And also wisdom, expertise. I'm listing a lot of things here, but that's important in terms of you're making it easily accessible, democratizing investing for the average user, and you're butting them up with experts that they feel comfortable with, they can replicate. They're not, in other words, not just do what they do, but just essentially model what they do investing. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's correct. Everything is correct so far.
So I'm trying to take your words and try and interpret them and make sure that it makes sense to me, number one, then two, hopefully make sense to our listeners and viewers. So how can people find you, Axel, and download the app and take it for a test run? Can you do a test run? Is that what you can do as well? In other words, a lot of apps go, okay, you don't want to actually invest money yet. Can you do a test run? Can we see how it goes for a week, 2 weeks, a month? Can you do that?
Yes, yes, exactly. Yes, you can do that. And so just to answer like the full question, like first, like to get some more information, obviously people can go to our website. So it's wisest.com. So WIZEST.com. So they can go there and browse a little bit. And then like we are like now going live. So they can through the website sign up to stay tuned and be ready to download the app when they want, or they can directly go to have the link to go to the App Store or the Google Play Store to download the app directly. And so that's very easy. And like in terms of like access to Wisest, we are now launching like in a way that anyone can go directly and find Wisest, but we are also like starting to work to build partnerships with like any corporations, any companies, to basically to be able to offer Wisest as an additional benefit from the employers to the employees. So this is a way also to help like people to get Wisest without having to look for it. And the last aspect you mentioned is like how people can give it a try. And so like obviously what we do is like for anyone that start using Wisest, we have like this like 1 month free trial period where anyone can play with it, see if they like it or not before deciding to fully subscribe, because at the end of the day there is a cost, and the cost of using Wisest is like through a small subscription. It's almost like a Netflix subscription, and it's like between $10 or $20 a month. That's our pricing model, to be able to access the service without any additional fee. So there is no trading fees, no like fees to hold like the funds in the portfolios. We want to make it simple for the user. And so that's to give you like the full answer.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to go and check it out. I'm going to download the app and have a look. And love the big mission statement, which is basically to make investment accessible to everyone, anywhere, any age. And I think that's, and I love the fact that it came out of your own frustration as an investor going, so hang on, you're asking me to have $100,000 before I can start investing. And you're going, I'm going to call bullshit on that. I'm going to go, let's make it available to everyone, no matter how much money they've got. And I think that's incredible mission. And I look forward to seeing the launch and the growth of Wisest. So any top tips to potential investors and users of Wisest that you've learned along the way as a human being, any top tips, or as an entrepreneur as well? What's some of your top tips?
Yeah, sure. So I said, and just before going to the top tips, just one thing that I want to mention is like, we are going live now for the US market. So it's Wisest is available for like
US market.
The US market. In the next few months, we will work to make sure that our application process and onboarding process will be available also in other places. But just at the time of launch, it's only for the US market for now. So that's for.
So you're going to be. So in other words, you're going to be a US citizen or resident. Is that correct?
Resident, yes, exactly.
Okay, right. Okay, cool.
And so then for the tips, I would say that's something that like through all my trajectory, and even now, even more with like when working on Wisest, what I see is like for people that want to start thinking about like building wealth for the future, the first thing is not like to do something, but to think about first like what is their situation, what is their financial situation, because everyone has a different financial situation. And it's for me it's a 3-step process. Like, let's see where I am, like what do you want, what do I want to do? It's buying a home, like retire early, whatever that the people wants to do, and what is their situation. Then like make a plan, like say, so to be able to achieve that, I need this and this and this. And when they and then executing on this plan. But executing on this plan for me means one very important thing. It means like when you do something, then you need to be consistent. And in investing, everything is, I would say, you gain on the long term. Like trying to do short-term gains is always a big risk and a big bet. We see that now is like what is happening with like cryptocurrencies, where it could be a nice ride, but it could be an horrible ride.
That's right.
And so like investing is about long term. So when people are like having a plan to invest, then I would say the most important word is like chill out, relax,
chill out, exactly,
and be consistent. Don't change strategy every 2 days, because you're going to lose everything. So it's consistency.
Totally agreed. In other words, you are saying in 3 words, 4 actually, play the long game.
Exactly, play the long game. Exactly.
Axel, it's been an absolute pleasure, buddy, to actually have you on the show, and thank you very much for what you're doing and to make investment available to everyone, no matter where they are. Well, USA initially, but congratulations, and look forward to seeing the growth and development evolution of Wisest. Thank you very much for your time and for your insights. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No, thank you to you and to everyone that is listening, and yeah, hopefully that we can get a few users through the audience.
Okay, great. Thanks, Axel.
Thank you.